let's jump right into this explainer with a seriously chilling question. It's something that historical investigations into the intelligence community literally force us to ask. When we look back at the legacy of covert behavioral modification, think mind control, we really have to wonder, did their methodology ever actually end, or did it just adapt? Did they just build a better, much more modern corporate disguise? Well, today, we are unpacking a wild web of declassified military documents, financial ledgers, and whistleblower testimonies to understand what investigators are calling the modern evolution of cognitive warfare. We're going to see how the biology of the human mind is allegedly being mapped, modeled, and, most importantly, targeted. So let's start with Section 1, the historical blueprint, or the university cutout. Now, back during the 1977 Senate hearings, it was revealed that Project MKUltra didn't just operate in some isolated dark vacuum. No way. The intelligence community actually utilized 44 different colleges and universities as front organizations. They basically used these prestigious institutions to shield their funding and completely bypass any sort of ethical scrutiny. As you can see from this direct finding from the Senate, using the credibility of academia to camouflage the weaponization of the human mind is absolutely not a conspiracy theory. It's an established, historically documented methodology. So as new congressional hearings approach, the sources really force us to ask, did this exact same playbook ever stop, or did it just evolve? That brings us to Section 2, the modern fiscal firewall. We're looking at WSRI and corporate shells. Take a look at this table. Notice the stark contrast in oversight? Standard research at Wright State University is audited by Health and Human Services, but its contracting arm, WSARC, which by the way is now operating under the name Parallax Advanced Research, well, that was set up as a completely separate nonprofit. It utilizes defense auditors and holds SAP/SCI clearances. In plain English, that means they handle top-secret, deeply compartmentalized intelligence work, effectively bypassing your standard academic review boards. And that brings us to the absolute apex of national security secrecy, special access programs. These programs strictly compartmentalize classified information. Because these proxy facilities are actually certified to host these programs, they provide the physical and digital infrastructure to keep unacknowledged research totally hidden. Sometimes it's even hidden from standard congressional oversight committees just because they lack the required need to know. Now, the really crucial point here is this massive, unexplained financial anomaly. Look at that number. In 2016, Wright State University somehow absorbed a staggering $4.38 million write-off generated by WSARC. According to forensic analysis in our sources, intentionally accumulating millions in unbillable labor and convoluted debt perfectly mimics historical intelligence tactics. It's a classic method used to conceal the funding of covert operational infrastructure, basically creating a vast reservoir of fiscal dark matter. And you know what? The obfuscation extends right into real estate, too. Investigators report the university's property arm, Double Bowler Properties, aggressively used anonymous LLCs to totally bypass state-controlling boards. They swooped in and acquired isolated sites, like this 53-acre former cement plant aptly named Calamityville, which provided unauditable top-secret sanctuary spaces for human performance testing and simulated combat exercises way out of the public eye. Moving on to Section 3. The convergence. We're talking neuromodulation and directed energy weapons. Listen, we are miles away from the analog past here. While MKUltra 1.0 relied on things like hallucinogens, safe houses, and crude chemical agents, what the sources dub MKUltra 2.0 is highly digitized. It relies on closed-loop neuromodulation, real-time fMRI brain mapping, electromagnetics, and targeted neuroplasticity. We are literally talking about using tech to fundamentally rewire human synaptic structures. Right now, military theorists are rapidly conceptualizing the weaponization of the sixth domain of warfare. And what's the sixth domain? It's the human brain itself. This is neurowarfare. As defined here, it's the strategic use of technology to directly interface with, remotely target, enhance, or severely degrade the human nervous system. So Wright State Research Institute conducts this deeply invasive neurostimulation research. But here is the critical link you have to catch. They operate in synchronized alignment with the Air Force's 7th 11th Human Performance Wing, which specifically tests the biological effects of directed energy weapons. Sources argue that the leap from wired electrodes to remote electromagnetic behavioral influence, it's no longer science fiction. It is currently applied engineering.
Next up is Section 4, the Weaponization Directive, specifically the ARAP Initiative.
I want you to really look at the exact phrasing from this February 2022 Department of Defense initiative. They are actively seeking, and I quote, brain-machine interface technology to dominate cognitive warfare. To build these weapons, artificial intelligence needs your cognitive fingerprints. This documentation confirms the military is engineering technologies specifically designed to harvest that granular biometric data for neurostrikes. So the proxy institutes provide this raw biological telemetry. Then, top-tier defense contractors step in as the amplifiers. Companies like Leidos, General Dynamics, and Sonalists take over to process these massive datasets. They're algorithmically integrating these human behavioral models into fully autonomous weapon systems and massive, broad surveillance networks. It's like a giant high-tech assembly line for cognitive warfare. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the counter-strategy. It's all about auditing the proxies. The Neuropsychological Warfare Alliance, or NPWA for short, outlines a very clear path forward here. They're demanding that lawmakers stop just looking backward at the abuses of the 1970s. Their strategy is to legally pierce the corporate veils of WSRI, parallax advanced research, and double bowler properties. They're calling for rigorous, deep congressional financial audits to expose and ultimately dismantle this modern cognitive kill chain. Ultimately, the core message from the NPWA is stark. The mind is not a battlefield, and our biology is not their test data. Based on the evidence in these declassified files, we're left with a massive, vital question to ponder. Will you demand deep congressional financial audits before our cognitive sovereignty is entirely compromised? Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. Keep in mind, the documentation you've seen here was produced using the Liberation Archives, which is a compilation of declassified military and intelligence documents combined with whistleblower testimony. Stay curious and keep questioning what you see.